What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to the channel. As you can probably already tell by the title of this video, we're going over 10 millimeter. Why I choose it, why I think it works for some people, and also why it doesn't work for probably most people. But head on into the table with me and we'll talk about some philosophy of use and discuss the pros and cons of the big 10 millimeter. Alright guys, so we're back inside away from the bugs. And as I said, we're going to go over some philosophies why I think 10 millimeter works for certain people. And basically you can ask yourself these questions, and if the answer is yes to these questions, then maybe you should get yourself a 10 millimeter. Okay guys, before I get into all of the pros and cons of the 10 millimeter in general, let me just introduce my two guns here so that you know that what you're looking at. As you know, if you've seen my other videos, I'm a big fan of my 10 millimeters, okay? I'm out in the woods all the time. I am hunting, fishing, hiking, all that kind of stuff. I live in a very rural area, and so 10 millimeter fits perfectly for me, okay? But first this is the first Glock that I ever bought back in 2018, I believe. Glock 20 Gen 4, 10 millimeter, and I put a TLR1 on this one, a Streamlight TLR1. And I've also got a Mariglow cap night sights on that bugger. Okay, so this gun here is beat up. It has been used and abused. I have carried this all over, hunting, fishing, like I said, hiking. I've also concealed carried this a few times. Okay, but mainly right now this gun sits on my bedside for home defense. Okay, this is a great gun for that because you're getting a whole heck of a lot of firepower in a handgun package, okay? And so I really like this gun for that. Another thing I like to do with this gun is sometimes I'll put it in the center console of my truck if I'm going on a road trip or something, because I will usually every day carry this gun right now, and this gun works as a great, basically a truck gun, right? If I were to get into some sort of issue when I'm still in my vehicle, I'd like to have that bigger gun with a little extra firepower. But again, I carry this gun here. This is the Glock 29 Gen 5. Okay, I have a Mariglow ghost ring sights on this one. Put on a pinky extension, but I can also run it, and I usually will probably actually run it without the pinky extension and just get two fingers on there. But I love this little gun because I can EDC it, I can conceal carry it pretty easily, and at the same time, if I go out in the woods or whatever, I know that I have that 10 millimeter package, okay? Now, I'll tell you guys, I am going to be carrying this gun, mostly, along with this gun as the home defense / vehicle gun, for the rest of this year, okay? And the reason I say the rest of this year is because here in Pennsylvania, hunting season is just starting. Archery is about to start here in a week or two. And basically, Christmas time is the end of rifle season, okay, a little before Christmas time. But throughout that time period, I'm going to be out in the woods the most that I am all year, okay? So these two guns will pretty much be what I'm using all the time because I'll be in and out of the woods. And so I'd rather just have like this one gun that I use for woods carry and for concealed carry. So I'll be carrying those two a lot this fall, okay? So, all right, without further ado, let's get into the pros and cons. So let me preface this video by getting something out of the way. Please don't go down in the comments and roast me and start fighting with me right off the bat, because I agree, probably with you, that 9 millimeter is superior for most people, okay? Not necessarily superior, but more suitable for most people, okay? There's a reason that everybody uses 9 millimeter. It is a very good round, and not just 9 millimeter, but also 40, 45, 380, whatever. I would say that probably for most people, it makes more sense to get a caliber such as that, okay? But this video is for a specific type of person. So if you're that type of person or you're interested in the 10 millimeter, stay tuned, okay? So I want you to ask yourself a few questions here as I go through this video, and that will really determine, as I said, if the 10 millimeter is for you, okay? So first of all, do you want more stopping power? Okay. If you want more stopping power, then the answer is yes, the 10 millimeter might be for you. Okay. Now there are other options. Like I said, there's 40, there's 45. Okay, that you probably could go with those instead. All right. And not only are you getting a lot more stopping power with the 10 millimeter, but you are also not really sacrificing that much magazine capacity. Okay, with the Glock 20, you're still getting 15 plus 1. With the Glock 29, you're getting 10 plus 1. And with other guns like the Smith & Wesson M&P 10 and the Springfield 10 millimeter, you can get, I think, even more rounds in those guns. So, whereas like 45, you are giving up some capacity with your larger frame guns or any guns for that matter. With 10 millimeter, it's sort of in between 9 and 45 when it comes to capacity. So having a lot of rounds of 10 millimeter, that's really a big selling point for me. All right, but simply put, if you want more quote unquote stopping power, and I know that's kind of a overused term, but if you want more firepower, then the 10 millimeter is a great choice. Okay, it's the most it's the most commonly used most powerful, most commonly used round in a semi-auto pistol, in my opinion. Okay, I'm not talking like 50 Desert Eagle and all that stuff. So if you want more stopping power, it might be for you. Okay. Second question is, do you spend any time outdoors? Okay. Are you like me? Do you hunt? Do you fish? Do you hike? It doesn't even necessarily have to be that, guys. You might just walk on a local trail with your wife and baby or whatever, and you're in a pretty rural area. And I mean, it may not just be the fact that there could be bears in the area. Could also be the fact that there's other threats that you want to make sure you have a little bit more stopping power, and we'll get into that here in a minute. But absolutely, if you're somebody who does spend a lot of time out in the woods, I think the 10 millimeter is a great way to go because you are able to then carry this in the woods and have a little bit of four-legged protection. And then also, like I do, you just carry this in town and you've got plenty of two-legged protection as well, or use it for home defense. And so it's kind of a very good do-all package, in my opinion, with the 10 millimeter. It'll stop a four-legged threat. It'll also stop a two-legged threat, clearly. Okay. Now, when it comes to two-legged threats, why you might want to go with a 10 millimeter, a lot of people would say it's overkill. I sort of disagree, and I'll talk about, again, more of that stuff later. But if you look at statistics, guys, most people who get shot with handguns, they tend to survive, okay? I could be a little bit wrong on that, but I know a lot of people who get shot with handguns survive. If you look at, crime statistics and police-involved shootings and stuff like that, it's kind of crazy where you'll see videos or you'll hear stories of people getting shot multiple times by a handgun and they still survive. It's because handguns are underpowered. That's all there is to it. That's why they're handguns. That's why soldiers don't use them in battle. They use rifles, right? Because handguns, generally speaking, are underpowered. So you could be concerned with stopping a two-legged threat and be afraid that 9 millimeter may not be enough. Why might it not be enough? Well, what if the person's hopped up on drugs, right? Or adrenaline even. There are, many times where you see police shooting a suspect multiple times and they don't even go down. It's like it doesn't even faze them because they are either on drugs or they're so out of their mind or whatever, that they don't even technically feel it. So in that case, going with something larger that's going to physically incapacitate the person, I think is not a bad way to go. Then another thing to think about, and this is just something I came up with, so I don't know if there's even any truth to this, to be honest, is if you're thinking about stopping power, take a look around you next time you go to Walmart or you go out to eat or you're just in town or when you're driving through town. Take a look at all the people. And I want you to tell me, what do you notice about the size of all of those people? Generally speaking, here in America, we are pretty big. I'm big myself. I've got no room to talk, but there are a lot of big people. That may be a good thing, maybe a bad thing. Usually it's probably means they're not in shape. But there could be big people who are in shape who are criminals. So what I'm saying is, if you're talking about a 300-pound guy coming at you, do you really want to rely on the 9mm? Okay. And now I'm going to get into some other things of why people might not want you to carry a 10mm. Some reasons that people stray away from 10mm. Okay. The first of those being being overwhelmed by the stopping power, by the power of the gun. Guys, these guns are very shootable in my opinion, especially the larger, full-sized handguns. There is nothing wrong with shooting this gun. This gun has way less recoil than a Micro 9 with hot loads, in my opinion. Okay, like say I've shot a Glock 43X a lot. I think that this gun recoils probably about the same as that. Honestly, I'm being 100% serious. Now, you get some of the really powerful loads in the 10mm, you will notice it, you will feel it. But I'm usually using either Underwood or SIG 180 grain hollow points with these. And honestly, guys, I don't notice that much difference. Now, with the smaller gun, the Glock 29, okay, and you guys, by the way, obviously you could use an M&P, you could use a Springfield, whatever handgun you want to go with. I just chose Glocks. With this smaller 29, where I can only get 2 fingers on it, basically, unless I use my pinky extension. With these smaller guns like this, it is pretty snappy, I'll be honest. Probably, again, feels like a Micro 9 with some plus P rounds in it is what that feels like, in my opinion, if I had to describe it. But people are a little bit overwhelmed by the recoil. But guys, recoil is just something that takes a little bit of practice to get over, okay? Seriously, you can shoot these guns just as well as a 9mm. With a little bit of an exception, and that comes to follow-up shots. And a lot of people will say you're better off with a 9mm because you will have quicker follow-up shots. That is 100% true. You will have quicker shots, usually with a 9mm. First thing I'll say about that is just kind of a little comment that I've had for some people in the past is, who needs a follow-up shot when you're using 10mm? Now, I know that's kind of silly. That's not necessarily a good way to think about it. But really, it is sort of true. I mean, if you're hitting what you're aiming at with a 10mm, you may not need a follow-up shot. But let's just assume you do, okay? If you do need a follow-up shot, it is still very doable. I'm going to roll in some footage right here showing you guys some drills that I did with a 9mm versus a 10mm, and then showing you a little bit of rapid fire with the 10mm. Glock 29, this time we're at about 30 yards, one-handed, fast as I can. Good? Yep. Good. All right, so as you saw in that footage, really not that much time difference between the 9 and the 10mm when running the Mozambique drill. And that also, I'm not a very good shooter, so that could have been because I was shooting the 9mm last, so I shot these two first, so that's kind of a disadvantage to these two because I was a little bit more warmed up when shooting the 9mm. But again, really, I think the increments of time difference is pretty minuscule, and the 10mm did plenty fast enough for what I need it for, okay? Just a couple more things that people might say are negatives of the 10mm. You've got also the price of ammo and the availability of ammo. This is definitely a fair point against the 10mm. The ammo is more expensive. It is, generally speaking, a little bit harder to find. However, prices have come down on 10mm by a ton lately, okay? If you want to get your premium ammo, like Underwood, it's going to cost you pretty good amount of money. I believe Underwood, if you go get hollow points or whatever you get from them, it's going to cost you $20 to $30 for a box of 20, okay? Which is a little bit pricey. But honestly, 9mm is also pretty pricey. Last time I think I got Hornady Critical Duty was like, I want to say $20 for a box of 25. So it's not really all that much different for defensive rounds. For FMJ, though, you can get 10 millimeter ammo from places like Palmetto State Armory, places like, even I just got some from Cabela's for about 50 cents a round, which is not too bad. Actually, at Cabela's, I got 2 boxes of, well, I guess it was a value pack, they called it, of 100 rounds of Herder's 180 grain FMJ for $40 for 100, so 40 cents a round. That's pretty affordable in my opinion. If I were to get 9 millimeter, it would probably be 20 cents a round, right? But the point is, it is still affordable. If you're serious about the 10 millimeter, you can get yourself cheap ammo. Okay. And then one other thing, one final thing that I'll talk about. I've seen some people say 10 millimeter is overkill, and you have to worry about over penetration. Guys, if you select the right rounds, 10 millimeter does not over penetrate as much as people would think. It's actually pretty much on line with the 9 millimeter in some rounds. If you go and you look at ballistics tests on YouTube, one of my favorite is I think it's like AZ Gunner or something, Arizona Air Gunner or something like that. He does a lot of gel tests, and he did a great one where he showed 9 millimeter and 10 millimeter. And the 10 millimeter, I think in that test, it went either the same or even shorter than a 9 millimeter. So I actually don't worry too much about over penetration with the 10 millimeter. You got to worry about over penetration with anything. Anytime you shoot at something, you should be aware of what's behind your target. So, that's just something you have to always take into consideration. But with the right rounds, a 10 millimeter is not going to over penetrate that much more than anything else. Okay. All right, guys. So hopefully I've helped you out a little bit, gave you some information to maybe consider getting a 10 millimeter or not getting one, or selling it or not selling it or whatever. Maybe I have convinced you to come over to the 10 millimeter side, or maybe I've convinced you that there's no need for you to buy one. Either way, again, it really comes down to, do you spend a lot of time outdoors? Is that extra stopping power worth the extra money to you and the extra recoil? For me, the answer is yes. Okay. For most of the year, like I said, I am outside a lot. Okay. And so if I'm out in the woods here in Pennsylvania, I like to know that I have a little more stopping power, a little bit of a larger caliber. And then I also know that I can carry these guns in town, and I don't feel like I'm being hamstrung by having only, a revolver or something like that with only 5 or 6 rounds. So if you guys enjoy this video, let me know. Drop a comment down below with what you carry. And as always, like and subscribe, and keep blasting.